Paper 1 is a response essay. This video will go over the guidelines, how to integrate sources, use MLA format, and revising and editing. So getting started, first we need to understand what a response essay is. This comes from the literature textbook, starting on page 1134. And a response essay is stated as being a short essay that expresses your personal reaction to a work of literature. So in some cases, your reaction may be how you can relate to a character, or the reaction may be to the theme of the story or the setting. I know that, after reading the 4 stories that are the options for this first paper, all 4 are very different. All 4 are written by a different author. They have different topics that are being discussed, different characters and settings and themes. So there should be one story that you can relate to. Maybe you can relate to all 4, but maybe one you want to write about more than the other because, say, everyday use, you can relate to the character of being a younger sibling and being overlooked by your older sibling all the time, or, having a family that doesn't have much money, or having, being the first generation college student. All of those things could be how you can relate to the characters or the theme of the story. But in other ways, you can just have a reaction to the story. So maybe you read the story by Kurt Vonnegut and you just have a reaction to those ideas that Vonnegut speaks about. And maybe you are amazed about how something written so many decades ago is still so relevant. So your personal reaction to the work of the literature is the primary goal of this essay, is just to have a personal reaction, whether that is to the character, the setting, the theme, some kind of important aspect. And another way of looking at the response essay, you can think of it as a conversation with the work. So questions that you may have had, let your readers know after reading, these are the questions that you were left thinking about. Your reaction should really reflect your personal values, attitudes, and background. So in this first paper, you will be revealing a little bit about yourself. It is a subjective style writing assignment. So it's kind of like a journal entry where it's whatever you're feeling. There's not necessarily a right or wrong, reaction. What I'm looking for, though, is specific details. So avoid being too vague or generalized, using statements like, oh, I really like that character, because that doesn't tell me much about, well, why do you like that character? What are the personality traits about that character that are appealing to you? So be specific when responding to these aspects of literature. Next, it's also important to understand what a response essay is not. So it is not a book report and it is not a book review. The purpose is not to summarize what the story was about, the content, and it's not to evaluate the quality of the work. So for a response essay, the focus is more on your personalized reaction. You don't want to gush or meander, which really just means you want to still have a focus and an organization. So, looking at a very basic style would be to create a 5-paragraph essay, and maybe in each body paragraph you discuss one of the major aspects that stands out in the story. So maybe you want to discuss the 3 different characters, or you want to discuss characterization, setting, and theme. This is how to organize your essay. And there's more details on how to organize this response essay in the actual Paper 1 guidelines posted in Canvas. Lastly, the response essay does not require any outside research, so this is just all your personal reaction to the text. There's no outside research looking at what other critics have said, or looking at another piece of writing by the same author. None of that should be done for this first essay. This is more about your personal reaction without using any outside research. The guidelines for paper 1 include choosing one of the 4 stories that I have listed here and writing a 3 to 4 page essay, minimum of 3 full pages, or else points start to get deducted, and to use MLA format. So when we talk about integrating text, there are 3 different ways we can do this, and that is by summarizing or paraphrasing, or by using direct text, quoting exact wording from the source. So any 3 of these ways need to have in-text citation accompanying the details. So if you summarize or paraphrase a source, you still need to use an in-text citation to give credit to the author where you're getting those details from. If you were to write 4 sentences, and all 4 sentences are taking bits and pieces of summary from the source, then you can wait until after that 4th sentence and then include 1 citation. So you don't have to cite after each sentence that you summarized, because then it would be kind of difficult to read the paper if every single sentence ended with a citation. So we want to limit, so we're not overboard with the citations, but at the same time, if a paragraph includes summarizing or paraphrasing from a source, then we want to make sure we have in-text citation. Now, when it comes to direct text or quoting exact wording from a source, we need to enclose the direct wording in quotation marks and include an in-text citation immediately at the end of that sentence. The MLA formatting rules, basic format, and citations are in the handbook that is required for the course. There's also a short in the literature book, in the very end of the book, there is a short section on MLA formatting. And then I have a lot of information posted in the actual Canvas course on MLA formatting. There's a PowerPoint and also sample papers. So make sure you look over that. All of this should have been used for Composition 1, but some of you may have taken Composition 1 a few years ago, or maybe just struggled with MLA format. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me as well. Lastly, we're going to look at revising and editing and what's the difference between the two. So revising deals with the paper as a whole. It looks at strengths and weaknesses. It also looks at mechanical issues, but that is not the primary goal of revising. Revision is more about helping the writer expand on ideas, challenge arguments, and maybe clarify ideas that are confusing. Editing is where we really look at these mechanical issues and we deal with the paper on a sentence level, and that's where grammar and punctuation is revised. So the editing process is more one-sided because the editor writes and comments on the paper and then returns the paper to the writer. Versus revision can be more of a consultation where you sit down with someone and the two of you look at your paper together. When I talk about revising, that's what we do for these peer reviews that we do in class. So it's not an editing session where you're going to submit your paper for a peer review and then someone's going to correct all the mistakes in the paper. That's not what the peer review's purpose is. It's more to help you elaborate on ideas, clarify the confusing details, and identify strengths and weaknesses in your writing. If you have not used the writing assistance offered to students, I strongly suggest you trying out one of the services. There is Smart Thinking, which can be accessed in our course, and then there's also Eastern Florida writing tutors that are available both on campus and online. And if you are close enough to a campus, then I highly recommend going and working with a writing tutor at least one time. I know I've done that as a student, but also as a professional. I've actually worked with the Eastern Florida writing tutors on one of my papers when I was taking a graduate course. And they gave me a lot of helpful feedback. And it also just gave me a break from rereading my own paper and trying to, make it better, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of revision, is to make your paper better, improve your writing, For a lot of you as students, you want to get a good grade. So it's really difficult to sit down and read your paper over and over and continue making really strong improvements to it. So when you give your paper to someone else to read, you can take a step back, give yourself a little breather, let them read it, and let them bring up some ideas. So then that way you can say, oh, I didn't think about that. It'll make your revision process easier, and it'll have a lot of benefits with helping you identify your overall strengths in your writing, and then also weaknesses. And that way you know what areas you can focus on to improve. So I just want to go over really quickly the areas in Canvas where you can access this information. So we want to go to the modules, and then Paper 1 guidelines is where you can find the full details of what is expected for Paper 1. These are the final draft guidelines. And then there's a lot of information to help you write this first paper, different questions that you can ask yourself in order to create a response to the text, and also an example of how to organize your essay. Like I said before, there's a lot of MLA help available. Librarians can help. Writing tutors can help. We have the course handbook, and then I also have a module completely dedicated to MLA formatting. So give this module a review, and of course the PowerPoint in that module. If you have not already read that, please read that over. And Paper 1 rough draft is optional. This is the Dropbox, which is available this week. You can submit your rough draft. And these are the rough draft requirements. So they're a little bit different than the final draft. Since it's just a rough draft, I only require 2 full pages, whereas the final draft must be at least 3 full pages. And all papers must be submitted in Microsoft Word file format. So please get the free version of Microsoft 360 from Eastern Florida if you do not already have Microsoft Word on your computer. It is compatible with both PC and Mac. For those students who have Macs, just make sure everything you submit is in a format that I can open with my PC. I know that the Pages format is not compatible with PCs, so that's why it's really important to use Microsoft Word.